لا 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 خالص، انا جاي لك على طول.
Okay, it's time to pray. That's fine. Thank you, God. Thank you for lead us to meeting with you. Thank you to lead us to be in one church, one spirit. And we ask you to forgive us, to ask you to be with us, to bless everybody here. Thank you to send our brother here to speaking about the mortgage, to be knowledge about mortgage or finance. This is also chance for us to know and chance for us not just spiritual people to come to speaking and to listen about God. Also, we need to know about what's going on around us. Thank you, God. Thank you, God, for everything. Thank you for our family here, and we ask you to be all together, love each other, and to be really support each other. Thank you, God.
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for that lovely prayer. First thing what I'm going to say is I'm going to apologise because I have a very, very strong, thick Irish accent, but bear with me and we'll get through it. Secondly, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be in God's house. I'm a Christian man. I go to Word of Life International Church up in Annandale. And we have one other thing very much in common, apart from all of us here being from a different country originally, is that my wife is Coptic. My wife's from Eritrea, and her and her family are all Coptic, so we've got a lot of things to share this morning. I want to thank Marianne for inviting me here. She asked me a couple of days ago to do a presentation. I tend to do a lot of these. I do a lot to the Irish community. I used to live in Boston 10 years, and what happened there, my first home I bought, I wasn't in the mortgage business, but the loan officer tricked me just before the closing, and my rate went up. I wasn't happy, and I said, that's it, I'll become a loan officer. And I helped a lot in the Irish people in Boston for a good 10-year period. And I would be on Irish radio every week. I would sponsor all Irish church events. I was heavily involved in it. And I was heavily involved in it with Irish people like me that come from Ireland, didn't know the ways in America, didn't know how to get a mortgage, how to get finance. And I guided them, and I became the most trusted one on finance in the Boston area. And I actually relocated here 4 years ago, just because of health issues. I suffered cancer up in Boston, and it didn't go well, and a lot of operations. And my wife's family's from Springfield, so we moved here in 2010, and I started again. But starting again in this area also is even better for me, because there's much more people here from all over the world. Whereas Boston, it's either New Englanders and Irish, and that's about it. But down this area, there's people from all over the world. And our church has people from like 115 different nationalities. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. But the thing is, and what I want to do is explain today about home ownership and getting a mortgage. And the great thing about America, it's probably the best country in the world to get a mortgage, because two things really that's really unique about it. In the States, they still allow a tax deduction.
Everybody come closer.
If you want to get closer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can please to be, we don't need back far away and he is here. We can go in the middle, I don't know. But it's best to be in the front. And we can push.
Okay, so just a little background as well on me, apart from being from Ireland. I'm actually a civil engineer and I specialise in international finance for 30 years. But I travelled the world, I've been to 45 countries in the world. I've done business with 120 and I've been to every state in America. I take my experience and I want to share it with people like yourselves. And I like to give back. I give back through my church, my daughter's school, my community. Whatever I learn, I'm freely willing to share. And it's always share to help. There's no ulterior motive. It's good to share, it's good to help. And it all comes from my Christian belief. So first thing, what are the advantages and disadvantages of home ownership? And I'm going to do it simply. The advantages are you own the home. You've got comfort, you've got safety. You're not answering the landlord. You're not worrying about noisy neighbours and rowdy neighbours. So that's everybody's dream, is to own their own home. And where I come from, the old saying is, your home is your castle. And in Ireland, it's really important in Ireland to own your own land. Not just the house, but the land. So we always aspire to own our own land. And the same with you people as well, and everybody coming. There's a stage in life where you say, I got enough of renting. I want to settle down, I want to buy a house. The second advantage is tax benefit. For example, and this is where the States is really good, like in Europe, they done away with having tax relief for home mortgage interest. But in the States, what happens is if you own a house, at the end of the year, you get a statement from the mortgage company saying how much interest you paid. And the IRS allows you to deduct that out of your tax rate. So for example, if you have a mortgage of $200,000, then you'll get a tax statement saying you paid $8,000 in interest, and you'll be offset against your taxes. What that boils down to, let's say if you have a mortgage of $2,500 a month, the time you get the tax relief off it, that's $400 to $600 a month. That's the equivalent of paying $1,900 or $2,000 in rent, because rent is absolutely zero deduction on your tax returns. So that's a huge benefit, is the tax benefit. The second big benefit is you have capital appreciation of the property, so hopefully your property will increase over time. That's what we're in at the moment. Properties are starting to appreciate again after the housing crisis from 2008. House prices in DC and this metro area are on the rise. The foreclosure and short sales, most of those got filtered through. So now we're in a seller's market and appreciation. I do a lot of new construction in DC, and DC property prices and the new condo constructions are selling really, really quick. That filters out to here as well. And then the fourth thing advantage is that when you're paying off your mortgage, every month more is going towards reducing the principal, less interest. So it's like a forced savings. So generally after 10 years, you're really starting to beat into the principal and principal reduction. And the good thing, if you pay your mortgage 2 times a month, a 30-year mortgage pays off in 23 years. So there's a lot of behind the scenes tricks and stuff that you can do to really, really save money. Now, disadvantages, everything has an advantage and a disadvantage. You can have a market crash and lose value all that stuff. We've already gone through that. So I'm saying as long as you have a job, you buy the house in this area, it is still going to appreciate. I suppose the only other advantage is if you're lucky to buy a bad home. But with a good realtor like Jeanette, I have a good team of people that I work with. I have very good home inspectors, and all that backup team helps all my borrowers. Because actually a lot of my borrowers ask me to comment on their home inspection as well as the appraisal, just because of my engineering background. So that's the first part. Any questions from anyone? Not yet? Okay. I have about 6 different sections I'm going through. I'm taking it from macro, overview, and then we'll drill down to credit and stuff like that. So the next part is when to buy. My recommendation obviously is ASAP, and to, especially at the moment with house prices increasing, you'll want to get on sooner rather than later, because you don't want to be buying at the top of the curve, what happened in 08, and then go off the other side. The other thing that when you need to buy, you have to get what's called pre-approved or pre-qualified. And this is really, really important, because if you just go out and you look at a house and you decide to make an offer, let's say Jeanette is representing the seller, and buyer, you come up and you go, right, Jeanette, I want to put an offer, I'm going to offer 300,000. First thing Jeanette will say, where's your pre-approval letter from the bank? And if you say I don't have one, automatically she's going to look at the next person who will have a pre-approval from a bank, and that will be who they'll select. Because what Jeanette, the realtor, has to do, she has to then talk to the seller and say, look, I got 4 offers, 2 were pre-approved, 2 people came in, no pre-approval, said they had the cash, but we don't know. So my recommendation is to look at these people who got pre-approved. And also, what I recommend when I work with my realtors is I would say, Jeanette, I've submitted a pre-approval for this borrower, but please please call me, and ask me what level of pre-approval did I do? Did I get all the documentation in, tax returns, pay stubs, all of that? And that helps you. So that's why it's really important to be competitive in this market. You want to get pre-approved, pre-qualified. Next, what you do to get pre-approved, the process is that you would call me or your bank, and they would take your name, address, social security, where you worked. There's like 25 to 30 questions. It takes 10 minutes, can be done online. But I go always one step further. I always ask people, look, I need all your credit documents. I need 3 years tax returns, pay stubs, W-2s, bank statements. I need all of that. Because the reason is, as I said earlier, when you submit your pre-qual and it's got, they call me and I go, listen, I've got all the documents. This is a really strong buyer. That helps you.
Is it 2 years tax return reporting or tax filing, or 3 years?
Generally it's 2 years for Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac conforming loans. But for example, if I have someone, I'll go into it later, who wants to do 100% financing through VHDA, VHDA wants 3 years.
Okay.
Right? So in that case, that's 3 years, because they want to make sure you don't operate a home office. But generally it's 2 years, and it'll be 2 years of filed returns, because we'll also ask the IRS to send tax transcripts to see if they match up with what I get from the borrower. You say it said there's no lien behind the scenes from the IRS.
Thank you.
So the process is you send it in, and then the next what people would say, well, Alan, how much down payment? So this is different, because a lot of people think you need 20% down payment. So a house 300,000, people think you need $60,000 cash, get a mortgage for 80%. That's the great thing about the States. The States, they'll do many different programs. Europe, Ireland, and the rest of it, they don't do that. They're 20% and all. But here, you can put down 0%, 5, 10, 15, 20. And where really is beneficial on different programs, you would say, why would I go 100%? Well, if you can't put down 20% and you've only like 10,000 in the bank, $10,000 is just going to cover prepays and escrow and closing costs. You have nothing for down payment. But the VHDA, which is the Virginia Housing Department, it's a state-run entity, it's 100% legal. They want people to buy homes, especially in Northern Virginia, because this is an expensive area. And what VHDA said is that, look, we're going to help first-time home buyers or move up. We're going to give loans for 100% financing and 101.5% financing. And that's going to help because it's hard to save for the down payment. And they're a very, very strong lender. They're great programs. And so if that's the program you're looking at, the next really, really important thing, especially for people coming from overseas, is credit. So when you do the pre-qualification, where you buy a house, your two most important things is the right documentation and then your credit score. Now, we don't have this in the United Kingdom about credit. It just doesn't exist, but it is over here. And again, I learned the hard way first coming to the States. Nobody told me about credit. Everywhere I went, even to buy a car, rent an apartment, they all asked me, what's your credit score? I went, what? And I had to end up giving double down payments on everything, and even three months down payment on rental and car and the rest of it. But credit in the States will follow you to your grave and beyond. If you put even your spouse or wife down as a co-borrower on a credit card and you die, the credit card companies can still go after when you die to claim it back from your wife as a co-borrower. So literally, credit in the States follows you to your grave and beyond. But credit is really, really important here. Your credit score is used on everything. For example, if you don't have the right credit score, instead of doing 100% financing, banks will require you to put down 10% or 20%. They'll also charge you at least half to 1 point higher in mortgage rate. So on a $200,000 mortgage, your monthly payment can go up $400 to $500 extra because you don't have the right credit score. Car payments is even more sensitive on the credit score. Like you can get today a Toyota RAV4 for $180 a month with really, really good credit in the fine print, or without good credit, you're at $400 to $500 a month. So that's the most important thing I like to teach people from overseas, is really, really get a handle on credit, establishing credit, watch your credit like a hawk, and be really, really careful. And I have a list of like do's and don'ts on credit. For building credit is, do pay all your bills on time, because that accounts for 35% of what your credit score is. And then secondly, if you already have established credit cards and you don't like what let's say one credit card company has sent you notice saying they're increasing the rate, if you go and you say, I'm going to close it, don't close your oldest credit card, because the banks always look to see how long you've had credit. So let's say 24 or 2, 3, 4 years. You want to keep cards that you've had for 4 or 5 years, because that also accounts for up to 30% of your credit score, is how long you've had your oldest credit card. So that's really, really important. And then if you do need to close credit, close store cards like Macy's, Lowe's, Home Depot. Those cards don't contribute a lot to helping you build credit. It's more like Bank of America, Berkshire Hathaway, those kind of banks, the top tier banks, that helps you build credit. The store cards actually are the worst because they subcontract some of the big credit card companies to do their servicing, and they're notorious for having late payments by accident posted onto your account because they sold the servicing rights to another servicer. And I know because I went through this 7-8 years ago with Macy's. They kept selling my credit card servicing, which means the billing statement was sold to a different company to collect the money. And it took me like 6 months to sort it out. And that was quick because I had no credit. So pay off store cards first. Also, if you have credit and your credit line, let's say it's $1,000, you want to get the best credit score, you want to keep the balance to about 30% off what the total available is. So if the max allowed is $1,000, you want to keep your balance to $300. Then you'll get good scores. As far as paying the bill off, you don't need to pay it off to zero every month. You can pay it what they want, the bare minimum, or a little more, but just make sure the balance is less than 30%.
So, Ellen, speaking of credit, I want you to talk to the people who really have bad credit. Is it good for them? Do they give up? And how long it takes? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so if people have bad credit, there's many different ways to do this. Like when you,
Excuse me.
yeah.
What the meaning of bad credit?
If your credit score generally is less than 640 and you have multiple legs, especially multiple collections on it, like really bad credit is having a short sale, foreclosure, bankruptcy on it. But even like collections for even $50 bill from a hospital or a phone company or a cable company, that can drop your score. If that goes to collection, that'll drop your score 150 points from 1 month to the next. So that is huge. So with that type of stuff, if you've bad credit, for example, your credit score is 500, 550, 580, like FHA say they will give mortgages with scores right down to even like 540 or something. But quite honestly, the FHA doesn't rate the mortgage, the bank does. And all the banks, they say, no, we're not doing anyone with a score less than 620, right? So despite what you'll see on the internet, like you get FHA loan for 500 credit score, you will, but you'll pay a big price for it. So to clean up bad credit, also I think first of all I'll explain about pulling credit. A lot of these companies like Credit Karma and stuff like that are basically useless because what they want to do is they want you to fill in all your details. They'll send you back what your score is, and the next day you'll get 20 offers from credit card companies to open a credit lines. That's what a lot of those companies do. It's like the old adage in America, good and cheap don't go together. And if it's too cheap, it's too good to be true, it's not right. So watch things like Credit Karma and all that stuff. Because also when they pull your credit score, there's actually 28 different ways to get a credit score. Because there's software that in banks for mortgages, there's 4 different FICO scores, or software to get a FICO score for mortgages. For card payments, it's about 5 or 6 different software stuff. So when you see like Yahoo Finance and it says get your credit score for free, and you pull it, in fine print they'll say, this is not a FICO score that would allow you to get a mortgage, right? So firstly, you have to get it, if you're going to buy a house, you have to get it pulled properly through a bank. Secondly, if you've bad credit, to get it cleaned up, same thing, be very, very careful for these companies like creditrepair.com or fixyourcredit.com. A lot of those companies, what they'll do, about 90% of that stuff is a lot of scams. They want to get you in, they want to get you on a monthly payment system. for servicing, but they will not sort the credit out in due course. What I tend to do, if somebody applies to me and they have a credit problem and their credit score is low, we work with a very reputable nationwide credit repair company, HomeLoanAssist.com, and their accounts executives and senior guys, we let them know, and they'll help somebody fix their credit, and in about 2 to 3 months' time they'll call us and say, look, we fixed the credit, we fixed the collections, the borrower sorted it all out, we've got it done. You can now re-pull the credit report, and hopefully the credit score will be up to 680 or 700. So that's a very important thing, how to fix credit. And a lot of people think, oh, it'll go off after 7 or 8 years. And not necessarily, because the collection company, let's say Bank of America sells to a collection company, the collection company is paid to collect that debt. If you don't pay them, Bank of America will sell that to another collection company 6 months later, and then another one, and then another one. So that's why it can always remain on your credit. So also that stuff, if you're going to buy a house, you have to pay off collections on the credit report. No bank will lend if you have collections. Same thing with a bankruptcy, foreclosure, short sale. You have to wait 5 years after discharge before you get a loan. No, actually, that's not true. 5 years to get a 100% financing loan. Fannie Mae and Freddie will do it after 2 years. But what I tell everybody is, if you think there's anything wrong with your credit, any mistakes on it, you got to clean it up right away. Because as I said, your credit follows you everywhere in America for everything. Store cards, credit cards, car payments, mortgage payments, the whole 9 yards. I have a list of like 20 do's and don'ts for credit, and later, if there's one, we'll arrange for you to get the do's and don'ts, how to build, what to do, what not. There's 20 of them all listed here. And then I think the next most important, we'll drill down now to if somebody says, right, I want to buy a house, I'm pre-approved and pre-qualified, what is the process, what's the programs? So, like I said, if somebody has no down payment, the Virginia Housing Authority will give 101.5% financing. What that means is they're going to pay you 100% for the house plus another 1.5% for closing costs. If you get a seller credit from the seller, you can buy a house. Like yesterday I pre-approved somebody to buy a house at $400,000. They had a short sale completed about 6 years ago. They want to buy the house that they're renting because the person who owns it now wants to sell it. So the realtor who manages the rental property called me and said, Alan, please pre-approve them. They want to buy the house. The owner wants to sell it, and the tenants want to buy. So I met with them yesterday, and they had $8,000 or $10,000 in the bank. They had a condo in their home country in South America, and they said, we will maybe try and sell it to give the down payment. And I said to them, you don't need to. I can pre-approve you for 101.5%. If you sell in South America, with the exchange rate moving it up to dollar, you're going to lose 40%, 50% on exchange rate from peso to dollar. And the husband said, Al, you're absolutely right. We'll take a bath on that. So I went through and I showed them 101.5% financing. The seller will give a $5,000 credit. So the seller wants $389,000. What I said is, look, let the seller do the contract for $394,000 with $5,000 from the seller coming back to the buyer to pay the buyer's costs. And what it calculated out was that the buyer would end up coming to closing with $600, right? Their monthly mortgage payment, including property taxes, homeowners insurance, and condo fee, was about $2,550. Their present rental is $1,900 a month. But with the tax deduction, they'll get at least $500 a month at the end of the year tax deduction. So effectively it means they're going to own the house for the same price as they pay per month in rent. So this couple yesterday were over the moon because they said, Alan, we didn't realise we can get 101.5% after having a short sale. And I said, yeah, you can. VHDA allows it because they know what people went through. It wasn't their fault that you shortened. Their situation was unique. They didn't blatantly want a short sale. They just were forced into it. So that's a classic example. A $400,000 home, 101.5% financing, mortgage payment $2,500 a month, equates to paying rent of $1,900. So tomorrow I'll meet his realtor, and later this week they're going to do a ratified contract. So there's different programs. There's 101.5%, there's 100% financing. Those are all FHA government programs run through the state of Virginia. There's regular FHA, which if you say, Alan, listen, I've got 15, 20 grand savings, I want to put some down payment to lower the monthly payment. You can do FHA with 3.5% down payment, and you can still get seller credits. And that's the key I tell everybody nowadays, is you want to get the seller to give money back to you at closing. You might as well use their money